Meteorfallian, I believe, has never been to a winners finals before. I'm not 100% about LWJosh, but I believe it is as well.
I believe this is uncharted territory for all three of our trainers who are still in this tournament. So it'll be very exciting to see a first-time regional champion hold up the trophy. But to start the winners finals, there's always that worry of the Bastiodon. It has been brought to a few games. I feel like it hasn't necessarily found the targets it was hoping for. I really feel like leaning into the Fearow, as Fearow, again, Credilli and Azumarill are a little bit uncomfortable for it. But across the board, like, my goodness, there really isn't a check to Fearow energy.
No, and there frequently isn't, right? The flying damage from all Pokemon, you know, we've talked about Talonflame, you're talking about Fearow now. On LWJosh's side, he has that Moltres, right? There are very frequently few resist to flying type damages that are brought here, but here we go. Winners finals game number 1. It is the Galarian Corsola into the Shadow Kanto Marowak.
Shadow Kanto Marowak going to have a pacing advantage in this matchup. But for the Galarian Corsola, it's the bulk that can be key. Marowak strikes first with a Bone Club, but Corsola not worried about that. Immediate no shield, and will get to return fire with the hard-hitting Nightshade, as Marowak now has a shielding decision to make.
I have to imagine that no shield comes up given the pacing of this Galarian Corsola. You are quite comfortable to take one, but an immediate pivot out into the Blastoise, which is a little bit interesting given you do not threaten with your fast attack damage. However, the energy advantage that has been garnered by this Blastoise is quite nice into the Credilli. 1 Hydro Cannon does not knock out, but 2 does threaten. Not quite, though. The rollout damage will need to add up a bit more.
Does Meteorfallian decide to throw on alignment to try and outpace? No. Instead, gonna opt for good timing. No bait from Josh, gonna full send a Grass Knot, and Party Hat Blastoise puts up the shield. It does not want that damage to land. Another rollout and another Hydro Cannon. It looks like Blastoise actually may be able to outpace here and make it to another Hydro Cannon before the Grass Knot is available.
Right, the 7-6-6 pacing of the Credilli is a bit of a weakness for it. Hydro Cannon not quite ready in time, going for another rollout, and I have to imagine since we saw 1 shield investment, he's going to put another up and potentially go for a rollout down. But LWJosh going for the swap and the Bone Club. This is not going to threaten a knockout. And I don't think we're quite at 2 Hydro Cannons loaded for Blastoise. It could throw 1, but in the back, it's another Kanto Marowak, and LWJosh has Clodsire as well.
That's not what Clodsire is hoping to see. All the shields you could ever ask for, but the one thing you can't shield is the Mud Slaps. Mud Slap connecting onto the Clodsire, and Clodsire has to hope it can get this Marowak somehow into Earthquake range, because this looks like a very dire situation.
Poison Sting is being resisted by the ground subtyping of that Marowak. Ground subtyping. The ground typing, it's only single typing. Bone Club coming through, going to pull the shield away from LWJosh. And if you remember, there is plenty of energy on that Blastoise. Don't think this Earthquake is going to be enough to knock out. And that Galarian Corsola has some energy and a good amount of health left. An immediate pivot, Hydro Cannon thrown as well. There's 1 more rollout necessary for another Hydro Cannon, but LWJosh still has Credilli in the back as well.
There is the Hydro Cannon. It is reached, and the wins from Josh. The Blastoise energy was just too much for this team to handle. He even got his Credilli on the Blastoise, and it did not matter as the Blastoise picks up, I believe, at least 2 of the 3 knockouts and still got big damage on the 3rd. Blastoise, the key to victory in game number 1 for Meteorfallian.
We talk about some water types being really good into Credilli. You know, the one that has been very prominent here in Milwaukee was that Empoleon, but Blastoise has a good amount of play as well because it has neutral damage with those rollouts, and Hydro Cannon pacing is quite nice into a slower pacing Pokemon like Acid Credilli. You have the opportunity, as we saw, to win certain shield scenarios, especially if you're up energy. So I like that play from Meteorfallian, leaning into Blastoise as a very safe Pokemon into LWJosh's team and trying to take advantage of how good it is in neutral matchups.
It really feels like Blastoise can go anywhere. Just about any composition Meteorfallian wants to run, any core he thinks could be interesting in a game. You can put it as a lead, as a safe switch, or even as a closer. But as a safe switch, getting up energy on the Blastoise. It was up 2 rollouts out game Credilli, and it just did not matter. But looks like the battlers are locked in here. We've got lock-ins. Game number 2. It's going to be Galarian Corsola into the Blastoise.
This is the one neutral matchup that Blastoise actually does not like in the slightest. Hydro Cannon ×2 is not enough to threaten a knockout with a rollout damage, so the Galarian Corsola is very safe. And I like this transition from LWJosh trying to mitigate the damage and the pressure that this Blastoise is putting out there.
Blastoise makes Hydro Cannon number 2 on charge attack priority, the nose shield by Josh. Josh knows that Corsola is built for moments like this. It's able to withstand this damage, and now Corsola getting very close to the back-to-back Nightshades. One Nightshade, not a problem for Blastoise, but a second Nightshade will actually be an issue.
We see Meteorfallian actually pivoting out, given that it is not afraid of the Astonish damage, but it does need to be afraid of this Power Gem. Power Gem coming through, going to be super effective damage. Fearow very frail, no shields the Power Gem, and in comes the Credilli. Drill Peck's gonna come through, but does this Fearow have enough health left to reach a second Drill Peck?
Even if it does, I don't know if it's going to matter, because taking a peek at the back lines, there's Bastiodon, there's a Marowak, and with 2 shields on Marowak, Marowak just looks to be an absolute terror in the end game. Credilli, if it puts up the shield, which it does not, I was going to say maybe that's an opening, but with 2 shields Marowak, this game looks like it's going to be extremely difficult for Meteorfallian.
Now, LWJosh at that moment when the Fearow reached that second Drill Peck was shaking his head a little bit frustrated, but now that he sees the Bastiodon out, you gotta have to imagine he's incredibly happy. The one thing that Meteorfallian does have is a little bit of health left on Blastoise. However, the Mud Slaps are neutral here, and you're only going to be able to reach 1 Hydro Cannon, and you actually do get the fast attack down, but you're only going to be stripping away 1 shield here with this Hydro Cannon.
Yeah, and 1 shield is not enough. Even if the Marowak had 0 shields, Bastiodon still could not win. The inflexibility of Bastiodon is, again, its downfall. We've seen Meteorfallian a couple times bring out the Bastiodon in these game number 2s after he's up a game, and unfortunately, it appears this is just a bit of a known tendency. The Bastiodon finding the Marowak, and there's just nothing Bastiodon can ever hope to do. Meteorfallian knows it's over, so to save time, he's just gonna no shield, and LWJosh gets a much-needed equalizer in game number 2.
I have to imagine that Meteorfallian's trying really hard to land that Bastiodon into the Credilli, or land it into the Azumarill, where it walls all the energy off from that Azumarill. However, because the lead matchup was Blastoise into Galarian Corsola, he did not have the ability to dictate switch advantage, and that's why we saw him pivot out of that matchup into the Fearow and try to win switch advantage there. But Credilli, just too strong of a Pokemon, able to win switch back for LWJosh, and we just saw how potent this Marowak is when it has shields. Even if you're up against a water type like Blastoise, you just don't have enough fast attack damage.
LWJosh did run a line that was ABA weak to the Bastiodon, but the Bastiodon was not able to find that target. Now as Meteorfallian, typically Meteorfallian has shied away from Bastiodon in game number 3. This is not a decisive game number 3 though, as keep in mind this is the winners finals, this is a best of 5. But if you win game 3, it puts you only 1 win away from Grand. So this is an incredibly important game. One trainer has locked in, the other trainer making last-second adjustments, taking a look at the team sheet, last moments, because this is a massive game ahead.
Neither trainer here wants to be the one who is down 1-2. It is so much more comfortable to not have to be 1 game away from being knocked down into the loser side of things. We see our second trainer lock in. Here we go into game number 3. It's not decisive, but it is impactful for the rest of this matchup. A very neutral lead here, Galarian Corsola into Clodsire. And I think we've seen both of these trainers have to play this match out before. We'll have to see what sort of learnings that they've taken from those past experiences and how they implement them here in the winners finals.
Typically, with a double Earthquake, Clodsire will be able to emerge victorious in the 0 protection scenario, just because even though Poison Sting does such little resistant damage, Earthquake is such a significantly better move than a Nightshade. In the back for Meteorfallian, being able to potentially bait out the Credilli could be very important, as the Credilli looks hyper strong in the back, but the Marowak struggles to find targets.
And it was LWJosh who had thrown Earthquake into Stone Edge into a Galarian Corsola, so we'll have to see if he he makes the same play, maybe expecting a shield, or if he goes for the Earthquake, it is Earthquake this time. He's learned his lesson, going to land that hard-hitting, same type attack bonus damage into the Galarian Corsola. Not quite a knockout, but we actually do see a pivot into the Fearow, which is answered by the Credilli, and in the back is Marowak versus Blastoise. So if all shields stay in play, that's actually advantageous for LWJosh.
Being able to bait out the Fearow is what Meteorfallian was hoping. One unfortunate thing about trying to bait it out is the fact that the Corsola got so low. Fearow, if it wants damage, it's forced to match Protect Shields. Josh putting up the first Protect Shield means that these future Drill Pecks will be doing quite a bit less damage. Fearow already had an energy advantage. It is a pacing advantage as well, and that pacing advantage on full display. Josh going to be no shielding because Drill Peck, when debuffed, not really a problem for Credilli. Switch timer coming up soon for Meteorfallian, reaching for the switch timer, but it was about a second from coming up. And unfortunately, the Rock Tomb, unfortunately for Meteorfallian, the Rock Tomb will land on its intended target and pressure the final shield.
The one thing that is going for Meteorfallian here, though, is that the fast attacks that are adding up are quite nice and putting the Pokemon in range of one more charge attack. We actually see simultaneous swaps and a Poison Sting down from LWJosh.
The patience by Josh. What a play. Committing to the farm down, getting the farm down, and now has charge attacks loaded. In comes Blastoise. Blastoise going to take this Earthquake, but this Earthquake is a lot of health gone. The rollout takes the knockout, and Josh still has the Credilli and the full health Marowak. There's a lot of energy left on that Fearow.
We actually see LWJosh waiting here, and that allows Meteorfallian's Switch Clock to potentially come up, but no! The Grass Knot is reached, and this is going to knock out the Blastoise. Now the Fearow has to knock out the Credilli. It needs to knock out the Marowak in the back, and LWJosh still has a shield. He needs to pivot right away.
There's the pivot, but he's too far behind. I think Fearow's going to be making it to 3 Drill Pecks because a Bone Club will not do it. He no-shields the first, but this Fearow looks like it's going to run away with this game. Credilli had some residual energy, used it to knock out the Blastoise, but the Fearow is so close to the third move.
Will he be able to reach a Bone Club here? Will it be enough? No, actually, Drill Peck coming before the Bone Club's even reached. Although Bone Club would be double resisted, it might put that Fearow into a acid down range, but no, Drill Peck picking up the knockout, and there's still way too much health left on this Fearow, and Meteorfallian in the winners finals is going up 2-1.
That was a really tough spot because he committed to the farm down, which is what he had to do, but Meteorfallian recognized Fearow energy is unpunishable on this team. I've already seen the Clodsire, which is very bulky. It's out of the way. If I save this energy, if I bring the Blastoise in to absorb that Earthquake, then I can trust in Fearow. And it was that Marowak in the back, and the double ground strategy from Josh presumably was influenced by that Bastiodon brain game number 2. So preparing for a Bastiodon, but when you do that, that's when Fearow can strike.
I'm a bit curious. Had LWJosh came in with the Kanto Marowak into the Blastoise as opposed to the Credilli and saved that energy on the Credilli for later, could he have built up enough energy in order to threaten with a Rock Slide into that Fearow? I think that would have been potentially a play for him in order to come out. Hydro Cannon from a Blastoise does not threaten a one-hit knockout into the Marowak, so even if that Blastoise made it to 2, maybe there's a little more play for him.
I think it would have been tough because Blastoise does have a lot of bulk to it, but if you're able to tank a Hydro Cannon, which Marowak can, and get the farm down without a second one being reached, maybe there's a chance. But the battlers are not wasting any time. We're locking in game number 4. Meteorfallian 1 win away from Grands, and it's the same leads as before. Corsola into Clodsire.
And we see the Galarian Moltres in the back for LWJosh, and it's a little bit uncomfortable for him now because he really would prefer, or excuse me, the Galarian Moltres in the back on he would really prefer it on the Galarian Corsola for Meteorfallian, so it will be interesting to see if he decides to pivot out and try to save this Clodsire for later.
The double Galar backline for Josh could actually be a little bit of a problem as in comes the Blastoise. Blastoise farming up quite a lot of energy. There's the switch into the Corsola, and Clodsire, as you had identified, saves a bunch of energy for later and by giving up switch advantage. If Josh is able to win switch advantage in this mid game, the Galarian Moltres could be quite strong. He doesn't know it yet, but Meteorfallian is actually ABA weak to that Galarian Moltres.
He's really going to need to preserve this Blastoise if he wants to have play in this endgame. LWJosh no shielding this next Hydro Cannon. It is a charge attack tie. Will we see Meteorfallian shield? No! He's giving up the health on his Blastoise. This won't pick up a knockout, but will he pivot out afterwards?
The switch timer will be available. If he wants to pivot out, it's his. In comes the Corsola. Corsola, can it get the farm down? It does get the farm down. That is big, as energy is stored on the Blastoise. There's energy on the Corsola as well. This could influence Josh to send in the Clodsire, but no, in comes the Moltres. There's the catch onto the Clodsire, able to catch the Power Gem. What a play.
The issue for Meteorfallian right now is that his switch clock is so far from coming up. He would love to bring in the Kanto Marowak at this point, and I think he's going to no-shield here, right? He's going to be able to get an energy advantage with the Kanto Marowak by getting a farm down into the Clodsire. Clodsire has no ability to threaten with any of its charge attacks. The question becomes, can he reach 2 Rock Slides and a threatening amount of charge attacks with the Blastoise?
This is going to be a very, very close end game. The Galarian Moltres still at full health. Can he get 2 Mud Slaps here? He does get 2 Mud Slaps, and that is a big energy head start. The good news for Josh is that everything is very, very low. It's a Bone Club bait. Josh, with his life on the line in the winner side of the bracket, he's thinking about, he called the bait! Josh, what a call! The no shield, and that immediately puts him in the driver's seat of this match.
Sucker Punch is going to do so much more work now that that charge attack was no shielded, rock-sided shield at this point. There is not a chance that this Blastoise can reach enough charge attacks to pull the knockout into this Moltres. There is no Ice Beam available for it, so the first Hydro Cannon can be let through, and he's going to be able to Sucker Punch all the way down.
Great situational understanding by Josh. It's not enough for the Skull Bash. He does not have to shield a Galarian Moltres flying high, and we're going to a game number 5.
What an incredible no-shield there from LWJosh in the winners finals. To be able to sit there up on the stage after 2 long days of battling and to have the guts to say, this isn't not a rock slide. This is just a bait. I think that's what you're going to throw, and I'm putting it all on the line.
What an unbelievable call. Meteorfallian did what he could, banking energy on the Blastoise, sending in the Corsola. Watch this, the Corsola, oh, just missed the Nightshade. It was so close. And the Moltres, he brought it in and caught onto the Clodsire, able to get that small energy head start on the Moltres, which would be helpful for later. And this, the no shield, calling the Bone Club bait. And that put him on the path to success as Galarian Moltres was able to take multiple knockouts.
And I think he probably did need to bait there, right? He wasn't going to reach 2 rock slides. He was only going to make 2 charged attacks with, or 2 charge attacks, 1 Bone Club, 1 Rock Slide with that Kanto Marowak. So if you throw the Rock Slide first, your opponent will know your energy counts going into the next one. So it's a very obvious no shield if you go Rock Slide first, Bone Club second, right?
Yes.
So that's why you generally want to bait first there, but LWJosh, recognizing this, is able to force a pivotal game number 5 here, and everything comes down to this. They're not going to be out of the tournament, but it is so much better to be in grand finals from the winner's side of things. Instead of 2 best of 5s, it's just 1 that you need to win in order to crown yourself champion.
If there's one constant, it's going to be the Blastoise. Thumbs up exchanged, the double simultaneous lock-in. We're a go. Game number 5 for a trip to the grand finals. It's going to be Galarian Corsola versus Credilli.
And I really like the Galarian Corsola lead for Meteorfallian here, right? He's been reliant on the Blastoise so much, so I'm glad he left it in the back, because Blastoise into a Galarian Corsola from LWJosh would be incredibly bad. However, LWJosh has not brought the Galarian Corsola this time. Instead, he's leaned on that double ground strategy that we've seen from him time and time again.
I will be intrigued to see if this matchup plays out, because Corsola will typically lose this matchup in the Zero Protect Shield scenario, but either trainer could decide to bank a charge attack and look to switch out. Specifically for Meteorfallian, that Blastoise, whether it's an aggressive safe switch or a soft loss in the lead to get energy, Blastoise energy could be the key.
And I think Meteorfallian's actually best here if he plays out this matchup, right? If he soft loses this matchup, brings in Blastoise, gets an energy advantage, what Pokemon's LWJosh bringing in? It sure as heck ain't that Clodsire, right? He's going to bring in that Marowak, and now it's just such an awkward position for LWJosh. Actually pivoting out a bit early, Meteorfallian is now allowing this charge attack to come through, and no shielding. The Grass Knot wouldn't knock out, but it would do so much more damage.
That's a nice call. In comes Clodsire, as Clodsire is able to absorb these super effective hits, especially when they are debuffed. The bulk of Clodsire will be clutch. LWJosh doesn't know it yet, but this means the Clodsire gets to avoid the Marowak, and that would have been a very big problem.
Blastoise reaching another Hydro Cannon here. LWJosh has the option to no shield here, except the issue is that if you are retaining all of your shields for a Kanto Marowak versus Kanto Marowak mirror match, you're just going to go for a fast attack down.
And a shield comes up here from Meteorfallian, looking to invest in the Blastoise, and there's the switch out into the Marowak. Switch timer not up, and that's where desyncing the timers can be costly. Marowak gets a 30 energy head start, and now Josh has to bring in his own Marowak, but he's down energy.
And the catch attempts here are going to be incredibly difficult, right? You have a 3-turn fast attack versus a 3-turn fast attack, so it's incredibly safe to wait until your opponent starts that animation in order to throw your charged attack. So we'll have to see if LWJosh can trick Meteorfallian into throwing a charged attack into that Credilli. I think that's going to be crucial for him in order to win this matchup.
The Bone Club thrown by the Marowak, the no shield by Meteorfallian. We know they were desync switch timers, but by Josh getting knocked out, they're not desynced anymore. There's the switch to the Blastoise, but he switches Credilli too early. He's getting farmed down. Blastoise exits with so much loaded energy, and this Marowak can't do anything.
Unfortunately, LWJosh needed to keep that Credilli for a catch. He could not counter swap it here, and Hydro Cannon coming through from big man Blastoise. Happy birthday to you, Blastoise. And we have Meteorfallian taking his way into the grand finals here. Congratulations to him on his best performance yet.